Hey, welcome back to the Growth Mind podcast, where I interview professionals to learn about their experience and to better understand their careers. Today, I'm more than thankful to have Rhonda Keen, aka Aunt Rhonda, here on the podcast. Yes, she's my aunt, and I'm just going to be more happy to have her. She's one of the most thoughtful and caring people that I know, and she has, which is probably why she's done as well as she has in the physical therapy world. She has over 40 years of experience, has just recently retired, which, congrats to that. And just really excited to learn more about your experience, and then also just to provide some insight for people that may be interested in getting into the world of physical therapy. So yeah, without further ado, welcome, Aunt Rhonda.
Hi, it's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And so I guess just to kind of get things started, if you can kind of just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, maybe just a little bit about yourself, and then we can kind of get into all the career stuff.
Sure, sure. I have, as Matthew said, just recently retired from being a physical therapist, for which I tell people I've been for more years than I haven't been. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. Have three uh, beautiful kids, five grandkids now. Yeah, life is fun and active.
Yeah, awesome and sweet. So I guess for with you saying, right, like you've been a physical therapist for more years than you haven't. Where I guess, like, when it comes to physical therapy, what led you to that opportunity? Where's, like, how did the start of it all happen?
Okay. Yeah, my it's very specific, and I really have a clear, I don't know, memory of the path. I was watching a career um, film for just exposure to different careers, and it was either seventh or eighth grade. It was middle school, and saw a clip or a portion of the film was on physical therapy, and at that point just thought I'd really like to do that. And then I have a cousin who has a daughter who has cerebral palsy, and was spending a little time with her and discussing the physical therapy that she received. So that kind of deepened my desire to be a physical therapist, and kind of just kept it in the back of my head during those early years, and through high school. And as the end of high school approached, decided to go ahead and pursue that. Um, so went into college, pursuing a degree in physical therapy.
Cool. Yeah. So like, well, it sounds like early on, you said you had a cousin that had cerebral palsy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I guess, like, was when it came to physical therapy, like what was like what made it interesting? Like, I like, it sounds like you obviously you enjoyed helping people,
Mm-hmm.
but was there, like, something in particular about, like, the way that you can help people in physical therapy that you liked?
I think the physical aspect of it, which appealed to me. Yeah, and it was a big thing. Just working with people and helping people was a big part of that package. But oh, sorry.
No, you can take it if you want.
No,
uh,
let me just turn it off. Will
uh,
that happen? Well, do I need to do anything else to prevent it from interrupting us?
I don't. I put my phone on do not disturb, but it's all right. Um,
Okay.
but yeah. So I guess too. So early on. So, like, in middle school was when you first found out about this career, and then along the way you kind of had some opportunities where you could kind of get a little bit of insight on what that career was like, and that just stuck with you all the way throughout high school, and then college. And I mean, so even through college, it was just you like basically from middle school through college, you just had this sight on physical therapy. There was nothing else out there that like was like pulling at you or anything else that was an interest. You were just pretty laser focused on that.
Yeah, I would say that there was not other, I don't know, um, interests or diversions. I think for a short amount of time, I was thinking about going into ministry, kind of youth ministry type stuff, but decided that there were a lot of different ways to help other people. And again, I really like the active aspect of physical therapy. So just kind of stuck with that. When I went to physical, so when way back when I entered physical therapy school, it was only a 4-year bachelor program.
Okay.
You did 2 years of your prerequisites at a academic, just standard academic college, and then there was 2 years into physical therapy school, which is generally part of medical schools. It's in the allied health division of the medical school. So your first 2 years were at regular college, and then the last 2 years were in the physical therapy school. And you had to, between those 2 years after the 2 years of um, your prerequisites, that's when you put an application in and applied to physical therapy school. So I actually did not get in when I applied those after the first 2 years. So I did go back to college. Just I was going to finish a degree regardless, and got a degree. Ended up getting. I could have reapplied after my third year of college, but decided to go ahead and complete my degree in recreation. Um, and then after I graduated from Louisiana Tech, that was 4 years there. I applied to physical therapy school for the second time and got in.
Okay. So wait, you there's you have to get your bachelor's and then you have the physical therapy program, or was it all just one at the time?
Yes, it was you. You ended up with a bachelor's, but
Okay.
yeah,
Is that
I
is
ended
that
up with two bachelors because I got my recreation degree and then I went to PT school and got a physical therapy degree.
okay, cool. So like double.
But if I hadn't done those 2 extra years, it would have been 4 years and ended up with a bachelor in physical therapy.
Okay, cool. Interesting. So I guess is it different now?
Yes, it's very different. There may be some master programs out there, but I think for the most part, there are doctorate programs now to
Oh, wow.
to get to be a physical therapist.
Huh. Yeah, so you got it since you got in early, you kind of, you had it was a I guess I'm sure it was still you still have to do a lot of continued learning and so forth while you're in space.
Yes, but I was grandfathered in. I did not. I
Yeah.
was not required to go back and get a master's or a doctorate
Yeah, yeah.
degree.
Yeah. And that's
So,
also an interesting thing too, because I feel like you've seen this space evolve as well, from where it started when
yeah,
you first started in your career versus like where it's at by 2024. So but yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I guess one thing I figure is worth asking is like what's like to you, like what is like so for people that might be interested in physical therapy but might not necessarily know what it is, like what is physical therapy to you?
um, it is the skill of strengthening or functionalizing specific muscles, joints, posture to improve someone's function, decrease pain that can cause after an accident, after surgery, after repetitive stresses. all those
Yeah.
kind of things. And it can be, there are many, many different areas you can go into in physical therapy. In my career, I've done a lot of things, worked in hospitals, acute care hospitals, private practices, outpatient rehab clinics, school systems, worked with pediatrics and adults. So kind of past 30 years has been primarily pediatrics, but there are a lot of different areas you can go into in physical therapy.
Got it. Yeah. So for you, I guess after the first like 10 years or so of your experience, that then like allowed you to realize like, okay, this is what I care about the most, or was, with being in pediatrics for the last 30 years, was that more just because that was like the best opportunity, or was it just like you were like, I know what I like, or I like
Yeah.
the area, I know the area, or yeah. So
I think I from the beginning and with exposure to my cousin I was telling you about that had cerebral palsy, I think I always had an affinity to do pediatrics, but it being a specialty niche, I started in a more generalized acute care setting and yeah, just did adult stuff until the the pediatric path opened up for me, and just yeah, once I started down that path, was where I wanted to stay.
nice. And I guess like over your experience too, what are your favorite parts about being a physical therapist? Like is it just like the is it that just like the work's fulfilling? Are there certain things that like you enjoy about the process, or just like getting to work, patient per patient, or yeah, I don't know. Like yeah,
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely love working one on one with people. You really, really do get to know them, and um, I think I've always been a good cheerleader, so to speak, and just encouraging people to do their best. So that's one aspect I definitely like. I like that it was an active job. For the most part, you're moving and performing as well as what you're having your patients do. I like that there's always been a high job demand, and I've never had any problems at all finding a job. So job security has been um, amazing. Um, yeah, those are a
like yeah,
couple of things that I've really liked
yeah,
about it.
yeah. And I know too, like I guess like you're working with patients, but you also, I don't know if you would say a team, but you're also surrounded, at least with your past work, you were surrounded by other physical therapists as well. So it was kind of like I don't know, you had people to like communicate with, and
Yeah, yeah. No, there's definitely a team approach. In most clinics, you're going to have occupational therapist who is somebody who specializes more in fine motor activities, more upper extremity rehabilitation. Also, there's usually speech therapists there as well. So, in many of the environments I've worked in, there is definitely a team working together for the rehabilitation of the patient. A sports type orthopedic clinic, you may not have that. It may be more specific to just physical therapy. Um, Most recently, I've worked in it's called Seating and Mobility Clinic, in which I evaluated people for wheelchairs and other equipment and made recommendations based on that evaluation, and then um, wrote up the needed documentation in order for those people to get the equipment. But that was yeah, much more of a team effort.
Okay. So it was like you were, so there would be multiple professionals working with a single client, just depending on
Mm-hmm.
the area. So like you were strictly focused on like equipment that they would be
Mm-hmm.
utilizing, where maybe someone else was doing more like motor skills or like stuff like that, or
Um,
are you doing that as well? Or
so the team in the senior mobility clinic was a physical therapist. Potentially, it could have been an occupational therapist too, but a physical therapist, and then an ATP, which is assistive technology professional. They are the people that actually provide the equipment and ordered the equipment. So um, I was more involved with what the patient's needs were, what postural support they needed, and the ATP is more involved in knowing what equipment would support those needs and how to order it, where to get it from, that kind of thing.
with I guess like with like having different responsibilities, even in the pediatric space, like what to you was one of your favorite, I guess, like roles as a physical therapist? Was the like what you ended up doing at the end, like with equipment, was that your favorite part, or were there certain things about the job that um yeah, I don't know, it's like out of like I guess like out of the different responsibilities that you had, is there one in particular that you liked the most? Or
Yeah. I really, really liked working inpatient rehab, um, which is generally those patients had had some kind of um, trauma, pretty, a major disability that landed them in the hospital. Um, there was, I think, one of the things I liked about that was you are working very closely with OTPT, music therapists, nurses, doctors. It's a much bigger team, I guess. So I enjoyed that. You really got to know the families because the families are pretty much staying in the hospital with their child as well.
these
So
after like surgeries or accidents, or just if they,
both.
or is it also disability, just disabilities as well, or is it, are they disabilities like caused from like accidents or surgeries or stuff like that? Or
The inpatient rehab is primarily after an accident or maybe after a major surgery or a major hospitalization where there's significant debilitation. And they just need the inpatient, you're getting therapy 2 times a day, every day of the week, basically. So it's a much more intense level of therapy versus an outpatient clinic where you're going 2 to 3 times a week
yeah, I can
for an
imagine.
hour.
I
Yeah.
can imagine at that level, like that. Yeah, it's like you're becoming family almost to an extent.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So
You do get very close with the families and stuff.
yeah, is it,
That being said, that was one of the reasons I kind of exited from um, that environment, just because it's can be emotionally draining, and I had family at home, and
yeah.
kids were getting busy and that kind of stuff. So I just felt like I needed something a little less intense.
Well, that actually goes, that rolls well into like another question that I had was, like what, I guess like in the job and just your experience, what are some of the more challenging things about the job? Like if someone was going into it, like are there certain things that, it's like they should know about before getting into the career? Because like,
Yeah. I think a very important thing, I know that was required when I got in school, I assume that is still required, is that you have some kind of hands on volunteer experience before you apply to the school. So, the schools, there are a limited number of openings at schools and stuff. So it's a pretty competitive um, application to get into school, and they don't want they want their therapists to get out and be productive and fill the needs that are out in the community. So having some experience, or whether it's volunteer, you could go and volunteer at a clinic. You could have some kind of, get a tech job that doesn't require uh, um, educational training. It would maybe just require on the job training. You could do something like that. You could, even just work as a office handler or whatever, just to see how a clinic operates and to see if that's really what you want to do. Because at the minimum, it's probably a 6-year program, lots of money, lots of time. So it is something you want to make sure you know what you're getting into before you do it. And volunteering or finding some opportunities. We have aides at the hospital where I worked, and most of the time those were people who were thinking about going to physical therapy school, and so they would work as an aide for a couple of years, and if that's what they wanted to continue to pursue, then lots of times they would go on to physical therapy school from there.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
um
that's awesome. Yeah, because I mean, I feel like having exposure before you're really in it, especially if you're investing 6 years, 6 years into a process, like
yeah.
definitely want to have some experience. But that's cool that there's available opportunities where it's like even if you don't have the degree, it's like you can still just get into the space, see how things work. And yeah, I definitely think that would be really important. Is there
Yeah.
anything that was like on job for you that was a challenge, like, or was just, I don't know, like, did you just get familiar with everything and it was just, uh, natural, like, I don't know, fluent at some point? Or were there still like parts of the job that were always like a little bit of a challenge for you?
I would say the documentation part of the job was always a challenge for me. I think it's just something I didn't really enjoy doing.
Until you had the care quarter.
That's right. That's right. That did add fun to the documentation.
Well, we'll plug the care quarter.
Yes, I got to work on two challenges at the same time
Yeah,
whenever I employed my care quarter.
yeah,
Care quarter is a device that my son invented. This is a
Rhonda
total
Keen.
keyboard right here. So I use that to type on.
Yeah. So yeah, well, I just had put that in because I don't know, I remember too you had mentioned that learning the care quarter made it easier to type reports because you were able to like automate part of the writing.
Yeah,
It was just like standardized parts of the report. So
yeah, for
just
sure.
just made me think about that. But yeah, what about too? I know just at least I'm almost positive. I could be wrong, but I thought there was a point in time where you went independent, where you're working independently, or have you always been a part of like, I don't know, been a part of a hospital or a facility, or I don't know, like, I guess like my thought is like for people that maybe like is being an independent physical therapist a thing, or is that a pretty like tough path, or yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean it is definitely a thing. There are private practices all over the place and getting even more common, just with the structure of insurances and things like that, have made them more popular. But yeah, that is definitely something, if you're interested in handling the business side of it, definitely something you could get into. I did do some independent contracting at different places. At one point, I was self-employed, but I had contracts with like a home health agency and contracts with the school system. I've also just seen clients independently in their home where I was responsible for billing and um, doing the financial side of it as well. So.
when it comes to, I guess, like working, like, because like you're right now, or well, before retiring, like you're working at a children's hospital, right?
Mhm.
So so I guess like, I don't know, where are there things that you like, I guess like, since you spent probably more of your career at like facilities, like what are the things that you appreciated about like being in a facility versus like being independent? Or are there like positives to both of them? Or
Paid vacation.
okay. Gotcha. That's
It's
fair.
nice to go on vacation and still get the paycheck,
Yeah.
and not have to, be able to totally leave everything behind. Also, yeah, other people just to handle all the billing, processing the documentation, that whole side of it. So yeah, definitely. I am was never really much interested in the business side of things. So I think that's why I ended up going back to a hospital facility.
Well, yeah. So definitely like there's, I don't know, just the within working in a hospital or a facility, like there's a lot. It's just like you get to really just focus on your work as a physical therapist rather than
Yes.
to handle the other parts of the business. So
Yeah. Yeah.
well,
I
cool.
mean, there's the downside of that is you have to deal with the all the time you spent on, I don't know, keeping up with policies and procedures, and just, I don't know, the um, politics of working for an organization.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because I had yeah, I thought I had heard um that like, I don't know, I guess like with the politics, right? Then there's like from the time like therapy has started to where it's at now, there's a lot more policies and like restrictions in place that kind of limit your abilities as a physical therapist. Or is it, was that, I don't know, I think I thought I've heard about that before, but is that not the case? Or
um, definitely, things have changed over the years. How much, how often you're allowed to go for therapy, what equipment is provided is often dictated by whoever insurances or whoever is providing the funds for the services or equipment. So that has definitely gotten more limited over the years.
okay. And yes, this is a little bit different of a question, but when it comes to starting off, it's like if I was in high school wanting to pursue the career of being a physical therapist, uh, when it comes to majors, are there certain majors that you want to be a part of, or is it like more of like health sciences, or like, yeah, like what would be like a good path, like what is like the path nowadays, or yeah, like what would be like good majors to look out for?
Yeah. Biology, which
uh,
is probably kind of a pre-med type um, study as well, but that's going to be something you are going to have to know backwards and forwards once you get into your main curriculum.
all the
uh,
muscles and ligaments and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
body.
yeah, yeah, bones, all the parts of the bone. Yeah, that's just you go through a gross anatomy class, and you have to learn origin, insertions, actions of all the muscles, and that kind of stuff. Chemistry, you're going to need chemistry, not high level chemistry and physics, but you're going to need some basic chemistry and physics classes as your I guess undergraduate degree. But math, you have to have a pretty good um, understanding, or
Is that used a lot in the field, or is that more of just like wanting to have a strong background? Like, is that just like an important thing for like the more advanced education part of the?
I would say physics you use a lot of on the job. Um, it's more functional physics and versus again high level. Uh, you're not you're not doing a lot of math for your physics, but just general knowledge of physics. Chemistry, I don't really use on the job, but that was you have to have a certain level of that for your prerequisites. Again, biology, you do you have to have a good understanding of that. And yeah,
Yeah, so then
just you need to know angles and rise and run and just different math concepts and stuff like that. So
okay, got it. Yeah, yeah. So definitely more of like the science, I would say like more of like a science route for
yes,
college.
yeah,
Um but it doesn't like I guess it the bachelor, like as long as it's like science based, like it doesn't, I mean it's like important because like what you learn there, but is it like do you, are are there like requirements for bachelors, or is it more of like as long as you have your bachelor's degree in like a science field, then you can apply to physical therapy school?
yeah. I'm not quite sure what it is today. When I was in, there were
Majors?
certain of those classes you had to have
Got it.
to get into PT school. And what part of those classes, what degree you had per se did not necessarily matter as long as you had those classes in that degree. So
And like you're still like you had mentioned it earlier, but there's still just tons of like the opportunity as a to be a physical therapist or be in the space. There's a lot of still like tons, and it's a growing opportunity. Or
yes, yes, yeah, very very much so. Again, you can go sports, school systems, hospitals, private clinics. You could work for sports teams. Yeah, there's
were
just
those options available when you first started, or were there like only like limited places that you could practice?
no. I would think that all those were available when I
Okay.
started, and there may be some more out there that I don't know about at this point. But yeah,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah. So I guess, well, like final, kind of like final thoughts. Like, I guess, like, is there anything that you want to tell someone that's just like getting started or maybe interested in the space? I know you've gone over a lot of stuff, but just I don't know, anything in particular that helped you in your path and like your career and journey.
yeah. I would say it's been a very, very rewarding career for me, uh, physically and emotionally. Just, I have formed so many bonds with so many different people. I can remember, certain patients from all through my lifespan. And those often the people that I work with have a very different um, physical path than most people do. And learning and working with those people, it's yeah, so rewarding. Learn so much from them. It's given me a whole different perspective on life and what's important. So yeah, it's always been had a high demand. Again, never, if you get through college, you're going to have a job, and you're not going to have a whole lot of problems finding a job. And then it's also provided a lifelong, continuous path for learning and development. Yeah, it's just there's not an end to the learning. You can take it as far as you want to.
That's awesome. Well, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. Thank you for sharing. I guess just sorry. I guess just, moving forward, it's like if anybody wanted to reach out, I can if anybody is watching and, is like, hey, like I'd love to, learn more. I can I'm sure Aunt Rhonda would be glad to talk for a bit or even just point you in a direction. I
Yeah,
guess
sure.
are there like any resources that would be good for people to reach out to or to like go check out, like I don't know, like websites or just organizations? Like I can add those links in the video, but
Yeah. I mean, there's APTA, American Association of Physical Therapy. So that's would be one resource. Every state has their own um, physical therapy board. Um, any clinic any clinic in your area you could reach out to, try to get the name of a specific person, um, as a more direct path to getting getting connected. Um, but yeah, also I would love to talk to anyone who has any questions as well. You can text me, email me.
okay, cool. Well, yeah, yeah. If anybody's interested, I'll be sure to get them connected, and yeah, we can also attach just any links that could be useful as well for people to check out. But yeah, thank you for sharing all of your experience and your story, and also just kind of teaching me and hopefully, a lot of other people just a bit about physical therapy and what that looks like. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, like, share, and yeah, thanks again for being here, Aunt Rhonda.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
I really appreciate the support. So, all right, have a good one.
All right, take care.